This is the Casually Toxic Podcast, episode 24.
24. That's a good TV
24.
show. Jack Bauer, America.
I liked it a lot when it was on, actually. I used to watch that with my family when it came on.
That's dumb, but that's also fun.
Why is that dumb?
Yeah.
What?
To watch it with your family, because that's exactly what I did.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I watched it with my family, and then I watched it all independently.
I stopped watching it because it became stupid. But also,
It was
now as
always
an adult...
stupid.
Well, no, yeah, it's stupid, but now as an adult, it's just like, damn, dude, that guy just, murdered people.
Yeah. No, in my mind, it's
all the
like...
time.
In my mind, it's Jack Bauer, Solid Snake, Sam Fisher. Jack Bauer wins every time, America. Let's go.
All
Jack
right.
Bauer's a pussy.
God bless.
Oh,
dude.
fuck you, dude. Jack Bauer.
But I remember one episode where he kills a dude with a trash bag that he pulls out of a bin, and I was in middle school, and I was like, "That's the coolest shit I ever seen."
Jack
There
Bauer.
it is, right there. That's the coolest shit I have ever seen.
Jack Bauer is a legend.
Do you guys remember there was some episode with neurotoxin or some shit? Because that's the only.
That was
thing
a whole season, I think.
That was
I know
only,
the exact where they release it in CT.
in The Office or whatever. And they're all
Yeah.
that's the only episode.
That's
I
the
remember.
episode that character E dies, and I was like, "Oh fuck no,
Dude, I'll never forget the sound
Spoilers, by
of
the
the
way.
phones inside
Yeah.
of the.
That was my
CT.
ringtone
I
forever.
know, dude. It was like.
I would when I was 18, I would have that as my ringtone. I'd whip my phone out and be like, "Yeah, this is Matt. I'm doing
Yeah.
fuck yeah,
Hey, this is Matt.
Matt
Feels-
Bauer.
Yeah, Matt Bauer." It was so good. 24 will live on in our
And
hearts
then
and
Kiefer
minds.
Sutherland tried to go to the movies, and it didn't work out.
Well, yeah. So
wait, what happened?
He was a TV actor, and then after 24 ended, he was the biggest actor on TV. So he was like, I'm gonna go do the movies because I'm good enough for the
he
movies.
did the
now."
movie The Sentinel, I think, which bombed really
Yeah,
hard.
he did a couple of bombs.
And then he did another TV show about numbers, like a kid that could see all the numbers in the universe and predict events. I forgot what that was called. And then he came back to 24 for one season, and that was pretty cool. And then they made 24
I
Legacy,
remember they made
which was
24
garbage.
without him, yeah.
Yeah, and that entire season failed, and
And then they brought him back, right? And they did 24.
they have not brought him back yet. But I'm I read that 24 community
How
stuff.
old is he?
Wait, is
though,
24
now?
still going on?
He's
no.
he's 23. What Jack Bauer doesn't age. We all know that.
Okay. I
Yeah, he
forgot.
transcends.
He was looking
age.
old at the end of 24 when I was watching it.
No, he
I
doesn't.
was like,
age.
that guy's kind of wrinkly now, and he's only 30 something years
Whatever.
old in real life.
Jack Bauer, fuck any hero.
From
you
all
can
the
think of.
stress that he's dealing saving the world, dude.
Yeah,
in
he
America.
has saved the world 10, 12 times, something like that.
That's a lot of time.
That's a lot of fucking time. That's what I'm saying. Jack Bauer would beat out Solid Snake in a heartbeat. Anyway, the 24 community is pretty dedicated talking about whether or not Jack Bauer will ever return. If you read the 24 Reddit, it's just is Jack Bauer coming back? Does he live?
They're just trolling the Twitter feed, yo, Jack Bauer posted a dot today on Twitter. Does that mean he's coming back to 24? That would be pretty depressing.
So the World Cup ended today, and I'm sad. There's no more football for a whole month.
You mean soccer?
You mean Rocket League?
Yeah. For a
Okay.
whole month.
So did you find that most players used an Octane or Dominus in the World Cup?
Definitely the Dominus.
Definitely Dominus.
Dominus is a good car.
That's good. That rectangular hitbox.
Mm-hmm.
So
For those long shots.
Yeah, the long shots across field where the ball just goes by everyone and right into the goal. Right.
So World Cup, who was playing against who in the final?
It was France and Croatia.
Nice.
Probably the best World Cup that I've ever seen, for sure. I've only seen 4 World Cups. Yeah, it was the best World Cup. A lot of people are saying a lot of goals, a lot of offensive play. It was good to see. And France won, and fuck them, dude.
Dude, why? You don't what's wrong
I
with
just
France?
wanted Croatia to win. France didn't even play that good. I thought they just got a couple of gifts from the referee and Croatia, and then I don't know. It was just sad. I wanted Croatia to win.
I saw one goal that was pretty sick, but I have no idea who scored it or even what point number it brought him up to.
There were several sick ass goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, but hey, check this out. So one of the dudes who took the winning goal basically for France, Antoine Griezmann, when he scored, he did the fucking Fortnite dance. Because Fortnite is a goddamn phenomenon. He does that shit
Christ.
every time.
Does he really?
Yeah. He used to do the Hotline Bling dance when he scored. He scores a lot. He's very fucking good. But he used to do the Hotline Bling dance, and then that stopped being cool, and now he does Fortnite. The L.
That's amazing.
Shit.
We're headed there. We're
we
gonna
gone
get to the
too
place
far?
where sports
Yeah.
are dead and esports reign supreme.
For real.
Fortnite's really not even like an esport though. I mean, like there are esports with it, right? But it's not like
It's just the most popular.
yeah, it's just like the game
which
right now.
kind of by like association makes it the most popular esport in a sense as well. Like it has so many players. I mean, I don't know. If you log in and play, are you playing? Is it an esport? I don't fucking know.
I don't think so.
What do you mean? Is it like anything can be an esport?
Yeah, I guess that's my point, right? Like, by the nature of it being a competitive game and also one of the most popular games in the world, it's also kind of the most popular esport, in a sense. It's a dumb point, Ian, but also somewhat true.
Okay, fair enough. Fucking the game's fun, guys. You guys should all play it. Matt, you should play it.
So I have one big problem with Fortnite, and it's that I'm absolute fucking trash.
Yeah, so
And the game is not fun because all I do is
Correct.
die.
So-
I can't kill anybody.
I can tell you why, which
Uh-huh.
is I already talked to Ian about this off pod.
Off
pod.
Okay.
And it's also the reason why I quit playing. The game doesn't have matchmaking. So when you're
you just play against
there's
anybody.
no
Yeah.
MMR. You just play against anyone, which turned me off immediately because I kept joining matches, get slammed within 30 seconds. I was like, I don't want to put in the time to play catch up here. And so I didn't.
But
Whereas I can hop into PUBG, I'm like, oh, all these people only play 5
so
to 10
the one
hours.
thing
so.
that I figured out was that I watched like a 2-minute video about how to land first, and then I was like, okay, cool. So you just land at like a really busy place and get a lucky kill. If then you find a gun, or if you don't, then you die.
Yeah, that's not fun.
And then I get like 2, maybe 3 kills, and it's like, all right, cool. Now I have to fight against somebody who knows how to play the game and has a weapon.
Yep, and I did not want to play the
die.
catch up there. I do not want to do that catch up. Anyway, Ian, you've been actually playing.
No,
Fortnite.
I mean I have stuff to say about this. So I was recently listening to or watching, I guess, the H3 podcast with Ninja, and he brought up a good point, which I talked to you about, where off pod, of course. I talked to you about it. It's yes, there are some good ass people, and if you go up against a good ass player, it's over, right? You lost because they're gonna do some crazy shit, and it's just over. But there is a baseline level of building that lets you compete with a vast majority of players, to the point where, like, if somebody is a little bit better than you, it doesn't necessarily matter. Like, they will have an advantage on, like, building, but I know you play CSGO, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to have a bet. Like, Scotty's not mic'd up, but like when I initially started getting back into Fortnite, I really sucked at building, and the only reason I could even do anything was because I was good at like shooting. So I'm assuming you're good at like FPS on the PC. So you should honestly be fine in terms like of playing the game and getting kills. The building aspect, there's like a very easy baseline that once you kind of nail it, it's like you could just do that and you can do okay and you can compete with people. That being said, there is some good ass players in that game, and it is like if somebody's way better than you, and you'll fucking know it.
Which is fine. I just joined and felt like 80 people are better than me, or the vast majority, and I just don't have an overwhelming desire to play Fortnite in the first place. So that, coupled with that kind of harsh beginning, just I don't know
I
if I'll
recommend
ever
you
play
should
it.
play in squads with us if you want to like enjoy the game, because that's when I have the most fun. Because you know, Scotty is better at building than I am, so I don't have to necessarily, you know, if somebody's like fucking 50 feet away from us, you know, my dumb ass is going to be like, I'm just going to run up to him or whatever. But Scotty will build, and I can like kind of play off his building to get to where I'm better, which is just shooting. So I think if you play in squads, and especially with like us who are not good, but like, you know, we've played Fortnite for longer than 30 seconds, you'll have a lot more fun. And also, it's a great game and it's fun. And Season 5 just came out. There's a sick ass skin.
I can't even criticize it because I don't know it well enough.
Dude.
I'm sure it's a great game.
Well, because I remember I was originally, when we first started talking about Fortnite, it was like podcasts ago. We were talking about how PUBG was kind of pissed because Fortnite was basically copying. I'm going to use the term copying very loosely. PUBG in like doing a battle royale when PUBG was like a consumer of Epic's engine, and Epic was the one making Fortnite.
Yes.
And I originally was talking about how I think it's more skilled for PUBG because, you know, shooting is harder, and then there's also like positioning is harder. But I actually now feel like it's switched where, excuse me, PUBG is still extremely hard, especially like long range sniper shots. That's hard. But there is a level of skill expression in Fortnite with the building aspect that can be infuriating sometimes. But when you get like you just outplay somebody with, you know, throwing up a fucking fort, or you know, if you do land and they find a gun, maybe you hit a wall 3 times or however many times to get enough mats to make a wall, and then you throw down a wall and block their shot and get away. Or just like little things where it's like the building really adds this extra layer that it's just like, it's just fun. I mean, it does suck when you're like, you know, out in the middle of a field and you have a sniper and you want to shoot that guy and you shoot him, but you don't quite kill him, and then all of a sudden there's a giant fort around him and you're not able to like get a shot off. But for me personally, I know I've told you about this, Matt. I like more aggression. I like close combat and shotguns or whatever. And I mean, the fact is everybody carries a shotgun in that game. So it's like there is a lot of close combat.
Yeah.
Which I am a huge fan of. And also the skill expression and creativity to like do all this building shit. It's just really fun to me. And you don't have to like be able to do some crazy amount of shit in order. Like if I got a little loud there. If you sat down with me for 5 minutes and I just told you like the basic building, you would have way more fun because it's not hard at all to do.
I believe you. I'm still not dying to play Fortnite, but maybe one day I'll
that's
give
fair.
it another shot.
It's not like I'm trying to sell you on it necessarily. I am trying to say though that like this idea you have of like I am a worse player than 80% of people is just false. Also, it's kind of weird, but if you have like a friend who plays on like a console, you play against other people that are also kind of like console based, so it's a little easier. Mm-hmm. But I guess my point is, it's fun. I'm not good at the game. I don't mean to speak for Scotty, but he's not great at the game. None of us are great at the game, but we all still win.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't really want to play PUBG. I did play PUBG the other day on their mini royale, their new map. That's I assume it's less players. It doesn't actually say on the screen. I failed to look at the top right during the match I played to see how many players were left. The map was pretty.
What is it?
It's like a jungle island, and it's just like much smaller. I think it's like 8x8 instead of 16x16 kilometers was their scale. I still found there were just large swaths of time where I was going through woods, spinning my camera around wildly, pixel hunting, which I don't find particularly exciting. Mm-hmm. But I am willing to give a pass in other games like Squad, ironically. But specifically, I got killed out of nowhere. I decided I don't want to. I'm not going to sit down and get good at a battle royale game right now. It's just not like in the cards for me. So I played a match. I got shot out of nowhere. Match ended. I was like, okay. Yeah, well,
but you do suddenly have more time.
Yes.
To look at other games.
Big news.
Yes, I do. I beat Uber Elder, Shaper,
Hooray.
Atlas Completion. I'm talking about Path of Exile. Thank you guys. Took me fun numbers, probably 250, 260 hours over the course of 45 days.
Jesus Christ.
So you can do the math on that. I think it was an average of 5 hours a day, something along those lines.
That's so much time. How does it feel?
It feels really good. Uber Elder was a cool fight. It's the 2 hardest bosses in the same fight, which I've mentioned before. There's a lot going on, a lot of mechanics. I was glued to my screen, just like an inch from my screen, leaning in, dodging. Like it turns into a bullet hell game at that point. So I was basically playing like a bullet hell boss fight. Killed them, got to the end of the story. There was a twist, I suppose. Even though I'm not deep into the Path of Exile story, you don't really need to be deep into it to appreciate the twist at the end. So I was not expecting a story payoff in any way.
You realized you were dead the whole time.
No, I'm not gonna spoil it in case anyone will ever reach that fucking absurd point. And so I beat it, and then the next day I was selling off my gear that I used to kill the boss. Some guy whispered me for a chest piece. I sold it to him for the price that was listed. He went back or I sent him a message and was like, are you playing my build or whatever? And he was like, yeah, I keep dying to Uber Elder. So I ended up giving him just a bunch of my shit for free. I gave him like 20 to 30 exalts worth of gear, which is a shit ton. Like, it's, 120 of those 200 plus hours was just grinding that currency, and he like freaked out and was so thankful and like freaking out. Cool. Yeah, it felt really good, and I told him to, pass it on or keep it, whatever is his. Like, it's his, do what he wanted, and he responded and was like, "No, I'll pass it on. I'll do what you did for me." And I was like, "Oh, that's
really cool."
Yeah, it's like, this is a really fucking cool, like,
you're
ending
the guy
to this.
You're the guy in the drive-thru that bought the person behind you's meal.
Essentially.
You started the whole train now.
Yeah, but what if it took you like 240 hours to get that meal, and you're like...
Have you been to the Taco Bell over here, dude?
That's fair.
Basically 240 hours.
That's fair. It's a lot of playtime to get that Crunchwrap Supreme.
Oh, man.
So I got my Crunchwrap Supreme in Path of Exile. It felt good. I expected to be done.
So this is what I was I kind of wanted to talk about. You finished Path of Exile, and then immediately you're like, you know what I should do? Start a hardcore character on Path of Exile.
Yeah, so hardcore is fucking cool. So what's your guys' perception of hardcore and like an ARPG? What do you think it is? Just define it for me.
When you die, it's game over.
Yeah. Do you lose everything?
You can't play that character anymore.
Yeah, you can't play that. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I know that you go into like Standard League or whatever.
Yeah, you go in Standard League, but no one plays in Standard. You might as well be dead. Anyway, I guess my point here is that it's a roguelike, because
oh my god,
it's like not only a roguelike, it's like one of it's my favorite roguelike now, obviously. But you keep what's in your stash, and what takes the longest thing in this game to get? Currency and all the various forms of it. So even if you lose your character, assuming you're not wearing all your currency, right? Like, it's not invested gear, you die, you lose your character, you still have all your currency in the stash. So while I thought hardcore was like this insane thing where you lose everything in days of playtime or whatever, it's more like a roguelike.
No, you still lose days of playtime.
I mean,
you have to level all the way up, which I get it. If you're really good at it, it's like, oh, I'm done in a day. But
in theory, if you're playing Path of Exile enough to be comfortable enough to say, I'm going to go play hardcore, then you can get through leveling in 6 or 7 hours. And when you're leveling, you're still making currency. So it's like the net loss for a character, it's higher than a roguelike, sure.
I feel like you were the guy...
But it's not that different.
I feel like you were the guy that when you played an RPG years ago and you lost like 2 hours of progress because you forgot to save, you were just like, oh well, and then you kept...
I was like, oh, it's a roguelike. It's not... No, I wasn't. Like, in this, you know what you're signing up for, I guess, right? You never signed up to lose 2 hours because you forgot to save. You just were a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
This is like, if you die, it's your fault, and there's always something you could have done differently to avoid it. So there's the learning process aspect of it. And honestly, it got me wondering about people that play hardcore in Diablo 3, because all that time is not like this currency in your stash, it's the gear you have on you. So when you die, you lose that gear. I'm like, how do people
But I also think Diablo 3 is an easier game than Path of Exile.
I don't know if dying is easier in Diablo 3 or Path of Exile in hardcore. That's what I was just curious about Diablo 3's hardcore in respect to Path of Exile's hardcore, because it seems like Diablo's hardcore would be even worse, because everything you've done for your character you are wearing, and when you die, you lose it. In Path of Exile, I'm wearing 50 chaos or whatever worth of gear, but then I have 1,000 sitting in my stash that I won't lose. So I can decide what level of risk I want to take. In Diablo 3, it seems like you're just fucked.
One of the reasons I don't like hardcore is I don't want to lose that much progress, even if you get to keep whatever because of the currency. But B, there's like fun builds that I want to play that you can't play in hardcore, because it's a lot of it's just like, you're going to be extremely tanky.
Correct.
Which is fair. Obviously, it's hardcore. You don't want to lose your character.
Yeah.
But I don't like the aspect that it limits a lot of like potentially interesting and fun builds.
Yeah, and that's why, like, for anyone, for you, you've played Path 1 League or whatever, I would never be like, go play Path and hardcore. I wouldn't tell anyone that until you've done all the content in the game, because it's worth seeing all that content, and chances are you're not going to see it in hardcore. Like, I'm not sitting here saying that I'm going to go kill Uber Elder in hardcore now.
You're going to kill Uber Elder in hardcore?
That's exactly what I said.
That's the next one?
No, I'm not going to kill Uber Elder in hardcore. Maybe in like 5 years I will. But it's a different style of play. Like, I've seen all the crazy builds for the most part. I've played all the crazy builds. Now I just have access to this whole other section of like these super defensive builds that are in hardcore. It's just different. I would never tell anyone to exclusively play one mode in any ARPG, probably.
That's fair.
But it's interesting flipping over to hardcore, kind of in my mind realizing it's a roguelike, and then experiencing all this build stuff that I've never experienced before. So it's neat.
Why you've talked about it here. Why you were so ready to be done with it?
I just assumed that I would be done with it, but after I guess at the end of 45 days of consecutively playing a game, two things happen. The highest probability of what's going to happen is you're going to be burnt out and you're going to be fucking done. On the other hand, sometimes in rare cases, you're like, this game is my comfort food. Like, I feel at a loss sometimes because I'm sitting at my desktop and I'm like, this is like a habit now. Like, it's just like, it's comfort food. So by no means am I going, and that's what happened to me. I'm not going to sit there and play Path for like 5-hour sessions anymore, or 10-hour sessions.
I'm like 30 minutes you want to log in?
Yeah, 30 minutes, or if I do go on a 5-hour grind session once or twice a week, whatever. Either way, like, it's comfort food, it's comfortable, the gameplay loop is satisfying. I know the game in and out now, so it's just really comfortable. And it's just like, I imagine it's like what competitive games feel for some people. Like,
yeah, it's like what, I feel like I talk about Eris all the time, but what he calls the prestige in Tekken. So, like, you know the movie The Prestige?
Yeah,
basically,
with Christian Bale. And
yeah. It's basically just like the prestige is like the payoff at the end of the magic trick when you're like, done, the lady's cut in half or whatever.
Yeah.
So to him, like, the prestige in Tekken is like when you get so good at the game that you're able to do stuff that is like superfluous, just totally for style, like you know, like taunt jet upper, like, you know, you can do that shit.
Yeah,
and like, that is like the most rewarding part of playing Tekken. Like, at the end of this, like, it's not even the end of this journey, but like once you get to past a certain level of skill, you are able to like put your own flavor on a character that you're playing. You're not following guides anymore. Yeah, you're making guides. Like,
so you're at that point right now in Tekken, right? You're doing taunt jet uppers on the
I'm a true Tekken, or not true. It's called Tekken God Prime. That's the highest rank. Okay. Above Knee, Lord Knee.
Oh my.
Fuck no, dude. I'm just like second Dan, I think.
Jesus.
Well, but
I haven't played online a lot.
What you're explaining is, there's always areas you're not perfect on, but I could write my own build for Path.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like you've achieved a level of mastery.
That
over the game that like you feel rewarded every time you play the game now.
Yeah, I can log in. I can look at item, I can know the price of it immediately, I can look at a character, realize where its flaws are, I could write my own build. It's just, it's comforting.
Yeah.
Is there anything more satisfying in a competitive game than styling out somebody?
No, other than
not if you're playing Rocket League.
Like the three best things are like coming from behind, beating the shit out of somebody who's talking shit to you, and just like styling just because you're that much better than them. That's it.
Like, there's no more fulfilling feeling than when somebody, like, the enemy team is talking shit and you just like
shut their ass up.
It's not like you achieve all three. Like, you are behind, they're talking shit, and then you style on them for the victory. It's just like, like, god damn. There's nothing better.
It's very like a very good feeling.
I would really like to get that good in Tekken where I can just fucking like there's times when I'll accidentally do something that like works and it ends in like, damn, that was crazy. But it's not like I'm thinking like
he's gonna do this and I'm gonna do this.
Yeah. So like, I mean, sometimes it just ends up that way. But I want to get to a point where you can just be like fucking throwing shit out there that's like hard to do just because it's hilarious and like, you know, like fucking I always think it's funny in like things like Street Fighter 5 when people like I guess just normal fighting games in general, when people just like grab and then they get knocked down and then they come back up and they grab them again and then they get knocked down and they grab them a third time. It's just like, how many times is this man gonna grab? I love those moments when somebody's just in the opponent's head and they're just fucking with it.
Yeah, they just know what you're gonna do. There's like no better feeling when you're playing a game, because you don't have to be a master to feel that. Like when you just like you have like a rhythm and like they can't do anything about it. Like you're just like every hit is gonna hit.
Yeah,
like,
fucking the game that I think I felt that the most in, not like necessarily like the rhythm aspect, was DBZ Fighters, where it's just like you can be on par with your opponent, but it's just sometimes you just fucking guessed wrong a couple times and now you've lost. Like it's wild where like the momentum in that kind of game. Yeah. Which is why Tekken is like the best fighting game out there, because it's not like it is momentum based, but also there's a shit ton of outplay that you definitely can do.
Yeah. It's such a deep game. That's like.
Do you find yourself enjoying it more or less now that you know you improve a great amount at the beginning, especially when learning like a new character, and then it very quickly kind of starts to.
Yeah, I'm still enjoying it, but like I'm at the point right now where I'm like trying not to say that like I don't know what my weaknesses are. It's like I'm too dumb to know what I'm not doing right. Like I need someone who's better than me to tell me like this is what you should be doing.
You should go to the. This is not really like podcast material, but you should go to the tournaments with Scotty and I.
Yeah.
It's such a good game, dude.
I want to get my fucking stick.
Matt, have you played any more Street Fighter 5?
Not really. I keep thinking about it, and I keep planning to. I just ended up in a weird place between all games.
Yeah, that's what I was definitely assuming was going to happen once you finished up PoE. You were going to be like, and now I'm on a Street Fighter grind.
Yeah, I didn't want to hop
I did not
on
think
another
that would
grind
happen.
immediately.
Really?
Like that's what I thought would happen. Like no. Like I wouldn't want to grind like that back to back.
Yeah.
Well, no, it wasn't like a grind. I guess the term I used the wrong term there. I meant like he was gonna play Street Fighter 5, and I guess that would be his new.
I mean, it still
no,
might be. I'm just in like a breathing space right now where I'm just playing different games, anything that strikes my fancy, and I'm not looking for anything that takes a lot of time right now. I just want to dip into games, have some fun, see what there is to see. Move on to the next thing. I brought my desktop out to my living room the other day because I still can't find. There's one thing I also did this week, I should have mentioned before, is Steam streaming. It doesn't work. Even with everything hardwired, it's nowhere near ideal unless you're playing something like Stardew Valley.
When you say Steam streaming, what do you mean?
So it's okay. So there's Steam Link, right?
Yeah, I have a Steam Link.
Okay. It's essentially your laptop or any other device, except your phone, I guess. Anything with an HDMI input can act as a Steam Link, right? So if I have my laptop in my living room and I have it hooked up to the TV, it might as well be a fucking Steam Link. When you log into the same Steam account on two separate devices, you'll have an option to hit stream, and you can stream from your desktop to your laptop / the TV. So I tried doing that with a few games. With Stardew Valley, it was fine. Anything more demanding, it just kept running into issues. Everything was hardlined. I had a power line, and it's still just, at a certain point, you're still better off, which is what I'm ultimately going to do, is ordering a $15 50-foot HDMI cable and just running it when I want to play games in the living room. But right now, what I've been doing for that is just... I got a separate power cable for my desktop, and then I unplug everything from the back at my desk, and I move the desktop over in front of the fireplace, and then plug in the power, run the HDMI. It only takes like 2 or 3 minutes. It's not ideal. Yeah. But it was the only thing I could come up with after realizing that Steam streaming still isn't where it needs to be.
Yeah, so. That's fair. I mean, it's kind of rough when you're trying to do that kind of shit. And, like, the input delay can make it feel real bad.
It does on any action-oriented games. But really, the idea there was playing fun games that aren't super grind heavy or don't require a lot of investment on the couch, on the TV. Because I have a living room that's my own for the first time in like 5 fucking years. So
You know, it's a great grind heavy game that you can play on the couch.
oh, I know where you're going with this. Ian.
Fucking
it's my favorite
Warframe,
game.
dude.
Favorite
Let's
game, Warframe.
go.
Let's talk about Warframe.
Dude, it's kind of funny that, you know, Warframe's always been compared to Destiny 2 for a while now.
Yeah.
But it's really reaching a fever pitch with its most recent update that we were talking about last week with the Fortuna and Railjack and all that shit.
Which is not out yet, right?
No, it is not out. It is coming out.
October or something like that.
I don't know if they had a release date.
Okay.
They might have, but I think it's because I watched like one video on it, and now like my whole YouTube feed is just like Destiny 2, a worse Warframe ? Warframe killed Destiny 2. Blah blah blah. Like just a million videos about this shit. And yeah, I don't know. It's a free to play fucking game. I don't know why I had to throw fucking in there, but it's a free to play game that's just
That's
like
a free to play fucking game. There's a lot of sex in Warframe.
Jesus
lots
Christ.
of space ninja sex.
dude. all
Fucking
right.
frame. There's fashion frame, fucking frame, Warframe. Continue, Ian.
It's a good game, and you guys should all play it. Highly recommend.
I
it.
agree that's a
I don't-
fucking game.
I don't really have like a whole lot to say on it that I haven't already said. It's fantastic.
So it's you're still going at it, still playing every day.
Yeah, I recently recently a buddy of Derek started playing, and he's actually really into it, and it's always surprising to me when somebody else gets into it, because it feels very much like Path of Exile to me, where it's like, yeah, you're gonna have a bad first impression of this game, like just because Path to me, like the combat was not great at the beginning. Obviously, it gets better later when you like round out a build,
Yeah.
and then there's like a million fucking things that you have to learn. And in the beginning, you're spending more time on like a wiki than you are actually playing the game.
Yeah, I did not enjoy the combat in the beginning because it was kind of just like brain dead.
And Path,
No, in
Warframe.
Warframe.
Yeah, so the beginning of Warframe is very much like, if you like the movement, that's something, right? Because the
Yeah.
movement, like you'll get faster later
was
on.
cool, but I was playing on mouse and keyboard. I should probably try it on pad.
No,
No,
mouse and keyboard. It's a shooter, and it's also very movement and reflex based. So
Yeah, but it's also like a single player game.
No,
I mean,
Are you
ish.
fighting as other real people?
you can, but I mean,
Okay,
like
but
they're
not for
it's
99% of the game.
Yeah,
It's
but
co-op.
Right?
It's just the
I would play a game like that on pad. I would play a
I
shooter
understand
on PC
the-
if I'm trying to like play a competitive game and like get a high rank.
I understand the instinct to play pad for Warframe. I've done it on both, and just because of how quick the movement is, mouse and keyboard, like it's very hard to like do the bullet jumping thing where you're like gliding through the air and like shoot someone on the head on pad. You can do it, but it's going to feel it requires that level of precision
Yeah.
that a competitive game would, just because the movement is so fast.
I mean, you can play on pad, and people have played on pad, but there's very, very little. What's that fucking term? Aim help?
Aim assist.
Aim assist. Auto aim. Thank you. Derek started on pad because of his wrists, and he ended up switching to mouse and keyboard because it's just like Matt was talking
so
about.
fast.
It's so hard to aim. I mean, you can do it, right? And it gets to a point. In the beginning of the game, it's extremely easy.
What would happen is if you played on pad, is you just wouldn't be doing a lot of the movement stuff, and you'd just be running around on the ground while everyone else is flying around, and then you'd be on the ground just like looking down sight, shooting, and that'd be fine. But then everyone else around you would just be jumping while running
fucking
and jumping
forever
while
ahead.
killing guys, like while they're running on the wall, and you just can't do that on pad.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if it's between you not playing the game or you playing the game how you want to play it, then obviously play the game how you want to play it. But I guess what I was trying to say initially was it is very much, the combat's all right. In the beginning, it's extremely easy because the enemies are just super weak. You don't have all your Warframe abilities when you first start off, or maybe you do. I can't really remember. But
That's one thing I for everyone that praises like the movement in combat, and I do understand why people like it. I'm just honestly not that much of a fan of it. It's just like it's almost too spastic for me. I appreciate it, but it's just not what I want out of it.
That's fair. I mean, I think it gets to a point when you're able to control it and it feels really good. I don't. Scotty once again isn't mic'd up, but there was a time I was streaming the game to him, and I was just kind of like showing some gameplay of it, and there was a portion in it when I just like fucking slid down this hallway and like fucking just twisted through like some metal pipes or whatever. It just felt really good to do.
And when you have those moments and they're organic, it's really nice. But then in my experience, I was like,
Running
I
into
could
shit.
slide down this ramp and shoot people while sliding down, or I could have just ran down it and it would have had the same effect.
Yeah,
ultimately.
but you're slower.
But it's brain dead AI enemies. It's just I don't always feel rewarded
Did
for
you
like
finish-
using the movement to its full.
Did you finish the star map?
I got towards the end of it. I didn't finish all of it.
Did you do like the second dream quest and all that?
Yes.
War Within?
Yeah.
The sacrifice? I haven't done the
I
sacrifice.
got a few, like I said before, I got a few Warframes to 30, at least 2, and some weapons, and et cetera, et cetera. And like, I get it, it's fun. I don't find the gameplay like the core gameplay loop was never extremely satisfying.
Yeah, if you don't like the core gameplay loop, like if you don't like the movement abilities,
I like it. It just wasn't like blowing my mind. Like, I would still say hands down, just like in terms of the gameplay, like gunplay loop, that's the one thing Destiny does better than Warframe. The only thing out of the entire game that Destiny does better than Warframe, other than having raids, because the raids in Destiny are amazing, as I've spoke about on this podcast before, is the core gunplay and gameplay loop.
I mean, it is Bungie. They did
Yeah.
do Halo, but I mean, yeah, I think shooting something probably feels better in Destiny than it does in Warframe. But I think overall, like movement ability, all that shit, like wound in, I would say the gameplay loop of Warframe to me feels more satisfactory.
If you include all the external stuff, I can totally understand why you.
That being said, I've played like the beta of Destiny 2 when I was coming to PC.
That's fair.
So like I did like one of those mission types or whatever the fuck, I don't know. But it's a good game. But I'm always surprised when somebody enjoys it, because even though it's very popular and it's getting all this praise in the news and all this shit recently, it's still hard to get into, where you're going to be like, I don't know what a mod is. I don't know what primary, secondary, melee weapon, what is that? What is a forma? What is like all this shit? You know, how do I upgrade my mods? Why am I suddenly dying a lot? What should I be doing? There's not holding your hand.
I guess it's impossible for me to experience that side of it, just because I am used to reading about games. I found the learning curve of Warframe to be not bad at all, but I'm also coming from playing like more complicated games, so like I see what you're saying. It's just, for me personally, it's kind of hard to see that in a way, just because the learning curve. I played Warframe, I was like, within maybe 20 minutes or 30 minutes of playing a lot of the things you just mentioned, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Well, yeah, because that's very basic. I mean, there's like
Yeah.
other shit you can do, but you know, I see what you're saying. I mean,
I don't think it's super daunting in the beginning, because all you're doing is grinding missions and things are leveling up.
I
and,
definitely
like,
100% think it's super
and you
daunting.
read, and the mods are all like one sentence each, and you read them and you equip them, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's what they do. I don't see the learning curve in it, but that's just me.
Yeah, that is just you, because like literally everybody else.
That's
that
because it's a
talks about
free to
the
play game that I guess attracts a lot of people that aren't playing a lot of like loot based like grinding games.
Even
But
in,
sure.
All right, okay. Even in terms of loot-based grinding games, like, you know, Path of Exile is the other extremely complicated one.
Marvel Heroes before it got shut down, and Diablo 2 still going. Have you ever looked at Diablo 2 mods? Those things are crazy.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah.
continue.
All right. I mean, that's really all I had to say on the game. It's fun. I like it. You should play it. If you're listening to this. If you're not listening to this, still play it. Yeah, Matt, what else have you been playing?
Well, I assure you, there's a lot of people that are not listening to this that are playing Warframe.
Hell yeah. This one goes out to all the millions of people that aren't listening to this that are still playing Warframe.
The other game I've been playing is Assassin's Creed Origins, which is cool. It's weird saying that.
Yeah, I heard it was not bad.
Yeah, I would maybe even go a little bit above not bad. Maybe
Adequate.
Maybe adequate. Maybe even above adequate.
Pleasing.
Honestly, if this was just like named anything else and wasn't part of the Assassin's Creed series, I'd be like, this is fucking great. But because it is part of Assassin's Creed, and because it has received so much flack, I'm like, there's just like a stigma associated with it, which isn't making me rave about it, I think.
Did you play the old Assassin's Creed a lot?
I played a little bit. I played like the first Assassin's Creed and a little bit of Black Flag, but none of them exhaustively. So
okay, yeah.
I can't really compare like this Assassin's Creed to previous ones. But I can compare it to other open world games, and what this game is essentially is kind of like a cross between Witcher 3 and Shadow of Mordor. The world is fucking impressive. Like,
how is like, see, because you didn't play the old ones, so like the reason that I am not enjoying, or like not thinking that I'm enjoying the new Assassin's Creed, is that it's like getting away too much from, I think, like the assassinating part.
Which Assassin's Creed are you talking about?
I played the first one, which I liked, and then the second one, which is the best one, I think.
Okay.
Or not the best one, but I think Brotherhood is.
Yeah, a lot of people used to praise Brotherhood.
I think Brotherhood's the best one. I don't know if that's the second one or if it's like the one that came out after the second one,
Somewhere
because
in
then
that.
they stopped numbering them and whatever. Because it just had like, I don't know, assassinating targets was like, there was like a lot of ways you could do it, and you got to, the platforming was good, and you got to like feel stealthy up to a point, because later on, I don't know if I like, this was like a criticism I read of the game like later, like years later, but it was just like, the parkour is, I mean, they wouldn't call it that then, but like the parkour is cool, but it's kind of just like you hold it the direction and you mash A and you climb the shit.
Yeah. So with Origins, and maybe that's kind of what kind of led to the downfall of Assassin's Creed, or like in terms of critical opinion of it, with the exception of Black Flag, because everyone loves pirates and ship combat. But with Origins, I wouldn't say it's not necessarily like inherently about assassinating people. At a certain point, like, yeah, it's lost like why it's called Assassin's
That's what I want to
Creed.
know, is just like how much of the game do you spend like somebody gives you a target and you track the dude?
Honestly, not that much, which is why this is something different, and I think they were going for kind of a soft reboot with this game.
Yeah.
Hence it being called Origins. They also introduced like loot and all this other stuff that I'll talk about in a
it has a
second.
lot more RPG elements now, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you think, because this is like the first game where it was like on a 2-year cycle, right? Because they were doing it yearly, and then people were like, yeah, it's kind of saturating the market.
Yeah. So this one was released 2 years after I think the one that came before it was Syndicate.
Which I heard wasn't terrible, but it was just because it followed so closely after Unity, and Unity was already like, all right, I don't want any more Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Well,
That
the thing
Syndicate
about
was just like
Syndicate I heard was that it's like, it's not bad, it's just like an Assassin's Creed game. So it's like, if you haven't played one before, you can start here and it'll be a good time,
Yeah.
but if you played one before, it's the same game.
So like I was saying, I think Origins is something kind of completely different with some of the same DNA of previous games, but not really. This is really kind of just a collection of open world things all thrown into like one of the most beautiful game worlds I think I've ever seen. And no part of it other than the world itself stands out as like being an amazing thing, which is why I'm not going to sit here and like rave about this game and tell people they need to play it. It just does a lot of things that I appreciate and streamline. A good example of that is mounts, right? So when you're riding you pick up a quest and you have an objective or whatever, and you're going to get on your mount to get there, right? And normally in like single player games like this, you manually have to do it anyway. And some other games have done this as well, but you hold A and you'll follow the road automatically, right? But the cool thing that this does is then you hit Y and it'll automatically take you to your objective. So what first gut reaction is like, yeah, well, that takes you out of the world a little bit or whatever, but it's actually the opposite, because when I'm doing that, I'm actually like using my right stick to like kind of look around, like just to kill time while I'm automatically riding. Just a really neat, and there's a lot of stuff that's streamlined in this that makes it an open world game that isn't like a slog to play. It doesn't feel like I'm playing an MMO single player game. The side quests are super snappy. The dialogue scenes, and this is the story. I compared it to Witcher in a sense that the story is garbage compared to Witcher. Witcher's 3 story is way better. Like, The story is just whatever. It's fine. The characters are whatever. It's
Serviceable.
Yeah, it's all serviceable, but it's almost like they knew that, and every side quest you have is like maybe like you'll go in a little dialogue cutscene. It's maybe like 5 to 6 lines of dialogue. They don't overwhelm you with dialogue. You go talk to someone. I don't even feel like it's worth skipping, which I normally would, just because it's so short and it's so to the point that a side quest takes me 5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Matthew. Hello, go kill that target.
Yeah, essentially, which I appreciate in a game that doesn't have a strong story to begin with. It's like they know they're not trying to like break ground here, so they just streamlined it, and you get those 5 or 6 lines of dialogue. You go do the quest as the RPG mechanics. You level up. You assign some points in a tree that's pretty close to Shadow of Mordor. The branching paths and every node leads to another skill node. The combat is good. It's like, I imagine probably a little bit like God of War based on what I've seen. It's kind of like the Dark Souls-esque, like somewhere in between like Dark Souls and the Arkham game style combat. Somewhere in between there. You have health bars over the enemies. You have X to dodge really quickly. There's like when you kill the last guy, there's like a special kill animation where you like fling them up in the air, like stab them and like pull the sword out.
I like games and their, I guess by extension, developers that just like they know what they're making.
Yeah.
You know? They're just like, Doom's not gonna be like,
Yeah.
this is the story of the century. It's just like, nah, you're killing fucking demons.
Yeah,
This
and
is sick.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey plays like it's just the greatest hits of open world games. Like it's not doing anything super crazy. It's just like takes the best elements of a lot of those games from the previous years and just kind of throws it in a game, and it's actually just like kind of fucking fun. I don't know if I'm not gonna probably play 50, 60 hours, whatever, fuck it. I've played 10 hours so far and I've had fun with it. I could drop it now and know what it is, or I might play more tonight. Who knows? The only thing again that stands out to me is, and maybe it's just because it's Egypt and like no like fully 3D realized like Egypts have been done in video games for the most part. It's just
I'm sorry.
so fun.
Did you never play Sphinx the Cursed Mummy on GameCube?
Well, no, the like to that point, I thought I saw a thing that like Assassin's Creed Origins like made another mode where it's just like a historical like look at Egypt, because they did so much research to make it like how it was that they can like use that in like university classes to like show like along with the regular lessons they give. They're like, this is what it looked like probably, like
well,
That's
I mean,
sick.
that's really cool. And again, maybe it's because it's that. It's just like just looking at I've been more interested in just looking at this world than so many other open world games, because I'm not used to like seeing like walking through like a fucking like temple with like hieroglyphics, or seeing like the giant pyramids in the distance. Like that's just not something I've seen in video games. So I think that if anything, that's like the hook in the game. Beyond all the other kind of streamlined stuff, is just like it's just a fucking cool world. So
I feel you. That's awesome.
It's a cool game. It's not mind blowing. I'm gonna play more of it.
Yeah, it's a good just like chill game.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a bad stigma attached to just okay games, because like there's a ton of great games out, which is fine, but sometimes it's like, I don't really want to play that. I just want to like.
To be fair, with Origins, to me, it's an okay game. But in reality, I mean, critically, it was 8s and 9s. It's a great game, like critically. To me, it's an okay game because this is not where my preferences lie.
That's fine. Yeah,
So.
I've always kind of bounced off the Assassin's Creed franchise. Just I don't know why, but it always gets praised. Like even Black Flag, I mean, it was fun, but I never beat any of them. I just like play for maybe 5 hours and then I put it down. And
How many story games do you beat?
That is a definite problem. There's I think I favor linear stories. So like Metro is a good one. There's Prey is also. I mean, it's not necessarily as linear, but things where very atmospheric games are what I'm into.
So, with speaking of that, an application to Origins is, while it is an open world, it feels pretty linear. Like you are going pretty much one direction through this open world, and every side quest or main quest you do is pushing you in that direction, which is like, so like you could play through the prologue and then you're leaving to go to Alexandria and then you're kind of plopped into another town or whatever, and just like doing the side quests alongside the main quests. Just like as I was playing, I just got closer and closer to like Alexandria. So like they actually like move you through the world in relation to the story, which is just really fucking like good game design. There's that's the entire game. It's like this game is like textbook, just like good game design.
That's cool.
So
that's awesome. I guess moving on from what we've been playing to just a real quick topic section.
The topic section.
I'm sorry.
The topic section.
There's been an ArenaNet.
Continue.
There's been an ArenaNet fight. Jesus
Who's
Christ.
ArenaNet?
It's people that do Guild Wars 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
This isn't
You
new.
know, the developers of Guild Wars 2. I feel like if you were aware of this topic, you would have some feelings about it, Cirrus.
Yeah, so I'm on like, I've heard two different things. So a girl went on a Twitter rampage and like talked shit to a fan or something.
I've listened to so much coverage on this. Let me summarize it. Jessica forgot her last name.
Listen to it so much. This guy right here.
It's Jessica something. We're gonna call her Jessica. And
Let's
the
just call
purpose
her
of
Jay.
this. She has a personal Twitter. She works at Arena. On her personal Twitter, she was reaching out or she posted something basically about like why narratives in MMOs are really hard to design around, and giving player agency in MMOs is really difficult. And it was something she's done on her Twitter in the past, where she just like does these really cool like kind of game design tidbits on her personal Twitter. On this one specifically, some guy was like, all right, let me apply kind of, or like state a counterpoint to everything you just said, and why narratives can't exist in MMO design, and this is why. And basically, it blew up from there. She responded, basically, don't tell me how to do my job, more or less. And then in a separate like post or whatever, she was like, if any more asshats try to tell me how to do my job, or something along the more or less quote unquote. And then from there, the Guild Wars 2 Reddit blew up about it. And then it just continued on from there. ArenaNet obviously caught wind of all this happening. And then literally like 24 hours after this was breaking, they fired her. And also, on top of that, another guy stepped up and defended her. Not in an aggressive way whatsoever. It's very passive. He was just
on
like,
Twitter?
Yeah, I don't know if he communicated. I think he communicated through Twitter as well. And it's basically like, I post stuff like this all the time, and I'm a man, and don't get this backlash. It was basically his kind of defense. And then he got fired as well, along with her. So it turned into this entire thing where like no one really brought up the female aspect of it until she did, and that's like one side of it, and no one really knows what's happening in terms of that. But there's also just like the main criticism is the guy ahead of ArenaNet. Their first reaction was to fire them, right? And whereas most companies, you would have some procedures or like protocol in place in terms of like social media
there was no
presence,
investigation or anything.
It could also be like she was like creating problems even before though.
So that's what most people have thought by default, right? Like, because it makes no sense unless that's true. But nothing has been said by either ArenaNet or her to say that was the case. And she came out basically on her final statement about the issue and said that there was nothing leading up to it, that they've never been talked to about their personal Twitter presence before, that she was totally blindsided by it.
Yeah, but I mean, that's also one person who just got fired by a company.
Sure, but it's the information you have, right? Like,
yeah, but I mean, like,
things happen though in companies.
No,
They don't just fire you for
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
But I think it's just easy for us to be like, well, I mean, she's the one talking about it, so like, and she's the one giving information. But I think it's a lot easier. I'm probably crazy wrong. I think it's a lot easier for one person to give like their side of the story and all their information than it is for like a company to make like a public statement about what
I
actually
think
happened.
ArenaNet easily probably could have made a public statement, especially because in terms of like the parts of the internet community that aren't like an angry mob, basically, are more critical of ArenaNet in this for jumping to firing. Like, there's nothing
She
in
should
between.
not, like, that's a ridiculous thing to be fired for.
Well,
Like, it's
Well, she also
so...
shit talked a fan, like a,
Yeah.
No,
a
some
customer.
fucking cunt on Twitter. Who cares?
Well,
But I mean, like,
who is
suppose-
this guy?
Okay, but who? I mean,
Like,
she's like
he
some
was
fucking
nobody.
developer, and he just gave. You said he gave an opinion.
She was actually, I think she was the community manager, ironically.
And she's just like I'm assuming it wasn't like the dude was like, "Hey, fuck you, you're dumb as shit. You can make a good narrative RPG character, right?"
No, he presented it in a really but he was also, her kind of argument was that she wasn't looking for feedback, right?
She's posting
But-
on fucking Twitter.
And I know, and that's the counterpoint to that is kind of something that invited
To
discourse.
see what she posted.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like, I mean, she can fucking eat shit.
But-
like, if you're gonna sit there and like make a post, and then somebody does a counterpoint,
but
and you're
if
gonna
you-
shit talk them.
Okay, you think somebody should be fired for calling somebody an asshole on Twitter?
I think if they're a community manager and you're like, if you are the,
You don't think there should be anything between
I'm
that
operating
and
under the
firing?
assumption that it obviously, but I'm saying I'm operating under the assumption where this just isn't like there was zero things before this and then boom.
See,
now she's fired.
that's a faulty assumption.
Yeah, I
right?
don't
But there's
know
a
why
faulty
you're
assumption
assuming-
to say
if you based on that assumption and she was a problem for a long time leading up to that, then sure, that
Yeah.
makes sense. But there's nothing to indicate that she was, and I truly believe that ArenaNet would have come out and said something of that type to people.
If she had
If
been
she had been
a
a
problem before this, then why would ArenaNet not come out and say, we fired her for this reasons, not for that reason?
Yeah.
I think it's just
so they
they-
can get these people to stop talking about
If
this.
anything, it just shows that it's easier for the company to, except in this case, to just bury the problem than take care.
Yeah, I
of
think
the employees.
companies just in general would rather bury shit than fucking bring all this crap
And that's
to light.
basically- and that's-
But I mean, all we've heard and all the information you guys are going off of is like, there's this probably disgruntled employee that just got fired is now shit talking the previous place that she worked. So it's kind of just like,
Well, it wasn't,
we're gonna.
it wasn't. That wasn't her first reaction, right? Like, she didn't get fired, and then it was because this story is huge in terms of traditional games media. Like, there have been people from every game news outlet that you can imagine covering this. This is a huge thing in respect to gaming, and she only came out, and she wasn't shit talking ArenaNet as much as she was saying the assumptions that people are making that there was something leading up to this was false, and that she never had any training or there was no policies on social media presence leading up to it.
I don't know. I mean, I
And
haven't
again,
read the article.
If it really was that, and there was other stuff leading up to that, ArenaNet would have used that to their defense right now, because
Is public opinion siding with her or ArenaNet?
it's somewhere in between, which is part of the reason why this topic is.
So maybe they don't
especially-
really need to have a whole statement on it.
But if you're looking at ArenaNet as someone, as a game developer, as someone looking for a job, why you don't want to fucking work at ArenaNet right now? That if you work at ArenaNet right now, that sends out the message if you do the slightest thing wrong, they don't have your back,
I don't know.
which is extremely.
Yeah, that's
I don't know if that's necessarily true.
That's 100% true, and I mean I'm saying it, but I'm also saying it from other people that have spoken on this issue from different podcasts I've listened to as well, and I agree specifically with that. It's giving them the image that they are not a good company to work for, because if you slip up, you're fucked.
There's also you're saying that this is the opinion of a person who just got fired, shit talking the company. Who else would shit talk the company?
What do you mean?
Who besides somebody who
I mean, it could have been
has
employees
been
that
fired?
quit and just been I mean, fucking CD Projekt Red, right? People employees that work there shit talk that company because they have a horrible crunch practice.
Yeah.
But I mean, so I don't think it's necessarily just, oh, if you're fired, then you're shit talking. It could be just people that, I mean.
No, I'm saying that there are a lot of people who work at fucking ArenaNet who have problems with the company, that don't say it because they don't want to get fired.
And to be fair,
Everybody who is not like the owner of their company has problems with their job that they don't bring up because they don't.
Yeah,
want
but
to
I mean,
get
there's
fired.
there's problems with every job though. But I mean, like, how much of it is like actual, like, really bad problems that are like
to
You don't
quote
know,
one,
because those people aren't allowed to say.
Well, I mean, I think if ArenaNet has like a huge problem, then there's always going to be like, inside sources or whatever said like XYZ, especially in a situation like this where now the company is being called into question, like, is there bad practices going on? Wouldn't like a disgruntled employee be like, yeah, there is. I'm going to tell you what they are.
I mean, they could, but this just came out like within a matter of like.
It's been like a week or something.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It hasn't been like recent or super recent.
There is one other quote through everything I was digging through. Alex Navarro from Giant Bomb. Sorry, Alex Navarro from Giant Bomb said on the Giant Bombcast that he had a few friends at ArenaNet, and basically he said it's a good work environment and all the employees there are great, but the specific guy that did the firing, I think his name is Matt or Mike, or it starts with an M, is apparently like not a super great dude. Which is, that is also something like, I don't know if the entire company
just like
is
personal politics inside of a company that we're talking about. It's just like it's talking about shit that happened like some fucking store down the road. The manager has problems with some other employee.
Yeah, but I mean, I just think there is like it applied to the ArenaNet thing where like she got fired, and for the most part, unless she really was a problem employee, which nothing has indicated that at any point that she was a problem employee.
All right, I guess here's my thing. Like, what do you mean nothing indicates that at any point? Like, they wouldn't be like, hey, today, I forgot her name already, had a problem with us, and she has one demerit. You know what I mean?
They would not know. They would come out. This happens like all the time with other big profile companies that like get in hot water over an employee.
Right.
They immediately fire them, and then they say why they fired them. We don't tolerate that kind of behavior.
Yeah, and I'm not
when
saying
someone says racist things on TV,
and also
they get, kicked out of the company.
and then say sure she was a problem employee. What are the chances that the guy that stood up for her, not even in an offensive way, and also got fired was?
Yeah,
that's
like the
I mean,
biggest
I don't
bullshit
know.
about all this. They
But
fired some dude who just stood up for her.
I usually disagree with you guys in terms of like, this like company shit or whatever. But like, I don't know why the one dude got fired for supposedly just coming up and
because it was easier for them to bury this than
I feel like
they would
I don't think anybody with a right head on their shoulders would be like, what's the best way to bury this? Fire another dude.
Well, that was before it blew up. For all they knew, this was going to stay within the Guild Wars 2 community and never leave it, and it was never going to be that big of a deal. But then the rest of the game's media coverage picked up on it because it speaks to a larger problem about game developer security. And this is just another extension of like, game developers have no union, they are not organized, and they're just getting shit on, and this is just like another case of that from a fairly like major company.
Yeah, I mean it's a rough fucking job. Like it's definitely a passionate thing. If you're not passionate about it, you're not gonna be a fan of it. I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll have to wait for more information to come out.
Yeah, and maybe more information will come out about it over the next few weeks, or it could be done and just like go away until some other studio shits on their employees, and then it'll come up again. And then this is like, I used to not care as much, or I didn't care about talking about this as much until more recently, because like this is an industry that I might be entering in January or come February. I'm very much seriously considering working for a studio when I graduate with my CS degree. So like this is gonna be something that's like personally impacting me, and like I don't know what studios I'm going to apply to. I'm going to go for local ones first or whatever. But if I was going to start, Tripwire or Hi-Res or, hey, Blue Mammoth Games, if by any chance you listen to this. You don't. Anyway, but if I start looking externally outside the state and I'm looking at, applying to companies like Blizzard and stuff like that, and I'm thinking about moving or whatever, ArenaNet's off my fucking list. I cannot go, and it's scary, right? Like people move to work at game studios because it's a passion job. They'll move states they'll get there, you do something like that, they turn your back on you, now you're all of a sudden in a state with I don't know how many game studios, and you can't get a job.
I guess it's just a personal thing, but if like my community manager shit talks a fan,
She wasn't a community manager.
Oh,
I
what
just
was
looked it up.
Oh,
Narrative designer.
Then
It's
she was
her
speaking
job.
on it's her job.
That's the point
Yeah.
that I'm saying, that it's
Yeah.
okay for her to call Susan an asshat, because it's like she's an expert in her field,
Yeah.
Right.
and this is some fucking asshole
but
calling
it's
out on
not
Twitter.
asshole, dude.
No, listen, you're also, we're going off what Matt said. I just like looked at the article. This dude is like a YouTuber who does this shit and goes on like this fucking rant about why you're wrong about this and explaining, like going in depth, explaining rudimentary things about game design, such as dialogue choices. I just read this article.
No.
Okay, like talking about this guy's trying to explain to her dialogue choices.
Okay.
And she is an expert in her field, been working over like 10, 15 years in this.
Okay.
And she gets to come on Twitter and be like, don't tell me how to do my job. And she did not call the guy an asshat back. She said, the next rando asshat to come after me, I'm going to block.
That's correct.
That's
exactly
worth getting fired over.
I'm not saying it's worth getting fired over. I mean, given that if the dude's like an asshole giving her like, hey, this is how you design a narrative quest.
Well, even if he didn't mean it as being like an asshole, right? It was just like I think someone said like there was a great analogy for this. It was like telling like a pizza cook in Italy how to cook a pizza or whatever. Like it's couch experts, right? We are guilty. I'm guilty of that.
Yeah, we're all couch experts. But
especially with MMOs, I'm guilty of that.
It's the fucking and it's the internet and it's Twitter, and I guess my thought process is
that's
right,
fine. But apply that to her as well.
Real quick.
Yeah.
I think there's a more mature way of handling it than being like the next rando asshat that whatever the fuck tries and tells me how to do my job. Which is, granted, if I was put in that position, I would be the dude that was like, yeah, the next fucking idiot that's telling me what to do, I'm blocking. But I mean, I think it's ultimately up to the company. That's fine if you don't want to work for them because you think they won't have your back. But,
I think.
Well, what I was also just reading about this is that like the real like damage that this can do is that whether or not because the company did come out and deny that they fired her for this. They said there were other reasons, but they didn't state why. They don't have to. But the real damaging thing is whether or not they decided to do it that way. At the very least, it appears, and to some people, it strongly appears that they fired her because of what she said on Twitter.
Right.
And at the behest of like thousands of angry nerds tweeting at the company saying, how can you have this woman on your team? So it puts out this idea that if you get enough angry people to tweet at your company, they'll fire people that you personally don't like.
It's giving into the mob mentality.
Yeah.
It's giving the mob what they want.
Right, but I mean, like, now we're operating off assumptions, right? Because, I mean, she said she was fired and there was no other problems. The company said there were other problems. So we have...
Well, no, that's my point. I'm not assuming. I'm saying that it doesn't matter what you assume either way. This is what it looks like.
Right, but that's an assumption, right? You're assuming that
I'm not assuming that it looks like that. It looks like that.
Yeah,
they fired her the day after she said some shit on
Yeah.
Twitter.
And people got pissed about it. It looks like it. He's
It
not
looks
saying
like
that
it,
is
yeah.
the reality of it. It just looks like it.
It looks like it. And that's what matters. It doesn't matter what is the reality because we're not going to know.
Sure.
We will never know, Okay. So it only matters what it looks like.
We might know one day.
Yeah,
Maybe
maybe
one
possibly.
day.
If we can get that insider information.
Let's
on
work at
ArenaNet.
ArenaNet.
Where are they based out of? Probably California.
Somewhere. But we work there, go inside, and then we get the scoop.
But then I would have to play Guild Wars 2.
But also,
It's not worth
it.
Like, I think if there's a lesson from like this applied to game development or any company where you have a public social media presence, is that like you discuss with like your project manager or whoever and ask like, what are our policies around this? Like, what can I say? What can I not say?
Well, that's the way that the company can like exert force over you. They would like intentionally withhold that information so that they can fire you whenever they want and just say, "Oh, you should have known."
Well,
if they like give you like hard rules about like this is what's against the rules, this is okay.
But at least then you know where the lines are. Where it sounds like in this case, and keep in mind, like this was her personal Twitter. Like, I mean, yes, she's representing the company by working there, but it's like if you when you're working at Domino's and you have a personal Twitter and you call someone on there, whatever, an asshole, and then Domino's fucking fires you.
Yeah, but that's an entirely different scenario.
I mean, it's different, but it's
Yeah,
not.
You get fired for like posting a dumbass picture on Facebook, or you can get fired from your job because like you post like Confederate flag shit,
Yeah.
or you post like you know fuck cops and you get fired.
But
from your
I'm
job.
saying like there's two different public like nobody's gonna be like, oh, you worked at the fucking Domino's on whatever
Well,
road.
sure, but
so like it's a different scenario.
It's different, but it's also not that far
Jesus
off.
Christ.
Like, I mean, right? Like, where's the line? Like, I mean, so the second you work for a company or a store bigger than Domino's or whatever, the second you're not working retail and you work at, say, like my company, Layer 3
Are we ready
Community.
to talk about capitalism? Are you ready to go
We're not
there?
ever
Do you want to
gonna
hear
talk-
about
we're
it?
not- I
I
don't
want to
wanna
hear
hear
about how
you-
you don't live in a
I don't want to
democracy.
hear you talk about
I've
capitalism.
worked for a company. I already said the name, which is a mistake if we ever get popular and anyone ever goes back and listens to this. Anyway, I work for a company in Norcross that services a lot of schools and puts in networks, and we
probably figured
we
out
serve
just
it.
by that information alone.
Whatever. We service a lot of people or whatever.
McDonald's.
So like, if I get on Reddit and like post like some shit post or whatever, like, and they pull it up somehow because we're representing schools across various counties, is my job now in risk?
Yes.
I don't know where I'm.
And
not
should
gonna,
it be in risk? Like, that's wild to me. Like,
I mean, I don't know where we're gonna draw this line. I think saying Domino's and like me posting, hey, fuck everybody, and then you know somebody on in the public eye, right, in this scenario, saying, yo, fuck you.
yeah.
It's like two different.
So
scenarios.
we can agree that like at Domino's, it's ridiculous. It's never gonna happen. But with my company, it's on a line. With her, it was definitely like past the line. But the point is like if no one's talking about this or like you're starting to define where the line is more formally, then you're gonna be walking on fucking glass. Or the employees at these companies are gonna be walking on glass.
You walk on glass anyways in a corporate environment.
Yes and no.
No, yes.
Yeah,
100%.
It's
absolutely
amazing. It totally depends on the company.
Okay, most companies.
It
you
depends
walk
on
glass.
your standing in the company. If you're at the top of the company, yeah, you do whatever you want.
For
let's take
the rest
Papa,
of
for
everyone else
example.
who works.
You walk on glass somewhat, right? Like, you're not going to go in there being a complete dumbass and, like, yelling racist slurs or, like, sexually harassing people, blah, blah, blah. But, like, workplaces, like, you know, cursing, you can walk in and curse openly, and it's fine, right? And others you can't.
But we're talking about this happened on her personal Twitter. So it's like the idea is that this is the things that you do in your private life. Like if you go working at Domino's to a house and they don't tip you and you get back in your car and you text your friend who works at Domino's, this guy's a fucking cunt, he didn't tip me anything, like should you be fired for that?
No, but I also think like in Matt's example, if he works at a company, right, and like you don't, Matt, but your personal Twitter feed is just racial slurs and fuck these people and hate speech, and then like somehow they get a hold of your Twitter. I honestly think it's okay for them to fire you.
I mean, it depends to the degree, right? So, like, in that exact scenario, it's racist slurs all the time. That's real bad.
It's easy to be like,
yeah,
yes, everyone says
but I mean,
fight
like,
that.
that's like, I mean, it is a gross exaggeration,
Yeah.
but it is like a personal thing. But it's like, I guess it's up to the company to be like, hey, we want this cookie cutter person to work here, and if you're not that person, then you don't work
But
here.
what if in that same scenario, like, I was on Twitter being like, fuck people that play Warframe, they're fucking idiots because they don't play Path of Exile.
I mean, I think it depends on how.
That only would get me fired if I'm working in games media or the games industry.
I think you would still like. I don't think game companies are like, hey, fuck that game if you play it. I think it's more like a. I mean, obviously some are, but like in terms of like grinding gear and like DE.
I just mean just getting on and calling any group of people like fucking idiots versus calling them racist slurs. Now all of a sudden,
I think if you're in
calling
like
them fucking idiots safe or is it not?
I think it depends on the company, right?
Yeah.
So obviously
That's why my point is like you need to talk to like the people that are in charge of this stuff at whatever company you work out to find out where the lines are, which is like the ultimate lesson from like this entire story is like you need to know where the company has decided the lines are.
Right.
So you can avoid situations like this.
I think a good, just like general rule is don't go on and call a mass group of people fucking idiots, unless it's like, you know, fascists.
I mean, in this case, you just called one guy an idiot. But.
Right, and I mean, I guess, like I said, we have two different conflicting pieces of information, so I don't know which one is the truth.
Yeah. That's fair.
I don't know. I mean, if ArenaNet doesn't give any more specific information or no other pieces of information come out, and I mean, it's up to them. Like, if people don't want to
if
work
they-
there,
if
then
they
they're
don't
gonna
I think
suffer.
I think it's a bad decision on ArenaNet's
Yeah.
part, because like now if you're like a developer or a narrative writer, right, and you are putting out your application, like, do you want to go work at a place that a company that's not going to have your back
Fuck
over
no.
like a Twitter bullshit?
I would,
because
fuck
there
no.
are other companies that come out and say like, we support our employees. I know my employees and I know how they are, and you're just some guy on Twitter.
Yeah.
So if he called you an asshole, you're probably an asshole.
Right. So, like, there's obviously different companies and different opinions, but if I'm a narrative, like, the game field, that was dumb. The video game field seems extremely cutthroat in, like,
Unregulated.
yeah, well,
Yeah, I mean, that's
I guess what I'm trying to say is if I'm a narrative designer, I'm throwing in applications to everywhere, and ArenaNet's not a small studio.
No, yeah.
So it's like, I'll fucking play by your goddamn game if it means I have a job.
But you
and
don't
I'm-
know what the game is,
But
right?
that's fine, because if I'm just not gonna like post anything, like
But-
unless
But
I'm like
I can almost guarantee it will turn away some people.
oh yeah,
Also,
absolutely,
a
but
not insignificant
but
amount
it
of people.
So,
I mean, and that's like a problem that.
So
they're
what if
gonna
they're
have
not going to get, like, what if those people who they turn away for, like, whatever reason, the people who ideologically believe that, you know, their company should take care of their employees, right? If those people are better narrative writers. So the better narrative writers are no longer working
Right,
at
but
ArenaNet, and ArenaNet goes down because of this decision.
This is like
you
a
know? That's the
huge
point.
what if scenario. But I mean, like I mean, it's possible, right? And they're gonna have to live with those consequences if they don't give. I do think ArenaNet should be like, hey, I see what's the better option? Like they come out and say we fired her because on October 13th she was a fucking dickhead to a fellow employee, or like.
No, they don't say on October. They say she, like, was a problem working with other employees.
Okay, so I mean, like
Like,
if
be more vague than that. You go, oh, she was late all the time. You have to be like, on this day she was late by 32
Yeah.
minutes. You go,
No,
like,
And
it's
the
an
problem is
exaggeration.
that wasn't their immediate response either. Even if they're starting to say stuff now, like, it's already painted them in a negative light. And if that
Yeah.
was the truth, I
That's,
don't know why
that's
they...
the accusation, is that they were not going to fire her until
Yeah.
there was so much Twitter backlash.
And
that they
I mean,
decided to fire
also-
her.
right, that's what
Under,
that's
like,
what it
community
looks
pressure.
like.
Also, to your...
Yeah, but there was a concerted effort on the part of some Twitter users to get her fired.
Sure, but I mean, I feel like there's a lot of like. I have to burp real quick. Hold on. Excuse me. I'm sorry. That's some good podcast audio. I feel like now in like the age of social media and the internet, everyone being like fucking, you know, a submit button
yeah.
away from talking to somebody else.
Everyone is a public figure.
I
now.
think it's a company. How am I going to word this? I think there's a lot more that a company will just be like, yeah, it's just people being fucking people. So, like, I don't think the mass amount of people calling for this chick to get fired got her fired. Because, I mean, like, in World of Warcraft,
It just looks that way.
Right, Ghostcrawler was the balance designer, and everyone was like, yo, fire this dude, right? And he never got fired, right? And, like, he ended up just quitting, and now he works at Riot. But, I don't know, it's kind of just like, we don't know. I don't know which side is correct.
The other aspect of this is like, or to your point where you said I'm just not going to post anything, like that doesn't entirely work either. Like especially in games, but in a lot of any media focus, anything else, everyone is a public figure and everyone is a brand. Like you
So,
have to brand yourself.
That's the thing. The real moral of the story is if you want to talk shit on Twitter, you need to make a fake account with a name like Steve Handelman.
There it is.
And then just shitpost
Yeah.
to your heart's
Yeah,
content.
just-
Don't put your real name on Twitter. That's all.
No,
Just don't do it.
You know,
I mean, you
get a
don't even have to-
VPN, get on the dark web, give yourself an edgy name, and then just shit talk people there because they're all doing weird stuff anyway. So
Anyway, I feel like we're getting to the end here. I
think
can
so.
quickly mention that Octopath Traveler came out. I know you kind of mentioned it before, and it looks beautiful. But
It's by Square Enix, right?
Yeah, Square Enix. And there are people like hyping it up as they're like, this is the beginning of the JRPG on Switch
people did
era.
that. People did that
You
for
know.
Bravely Default.
Oh, yeah.
They're like the great return of JRPGs. I played
Yeah.
like 70 hours of Bravely Default. I was like, okay.
Scotty played Bravely Default too, right?
I thought
He liked
Bravely
it.
Default was supposed to be really good.
It's supposed
It's
to be.
good.
It's supposed to be good, but I heard there's a point in the game where they're just like, do everything again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
There's like some kind of mechanic where it's like, okay, you're back to level 0. Not like literally, but like
that would be lame.
kind of like that.
Mm.
And I heard Bravely Second was pretty good too, but I didn't play either of those games. But Octopath Traveler got pretty good reviews. I think like 7s and 8s,
Mhm.
a lot of 8s. And yeah, so it's $60, which is like a big reason why I haven't bought it. I would probably like look to spend around 40 maybe.
That's what I was saying. $40 for that game.
Yeah.
Would be
This seems
solid.
like really high for what I've seen of it.
Yeah,
but-
I've heard it's a about like a depending on how much like side quest shit you want to do. It can be anywhere between, I think some people may say 20, 30 on the low end, up to like 80.
Isn't
But yeah, don't you like start?
Hours.
Aren't there like different stories for like the different characters?
Yeah, so that's like I wouldn't say like a criticism, but it's like something that like fans were a little like disappointed in because like Nintendo never or Square Enix never said this was how it was gonna be, but people kind of had this idea that like if you have the 8 characters, they all have their own separate storylines, and it's like up to you to complete as many as you want while you go to like the final main quest.
Okay.
And that, like, depending on, kind of like Persona, like, depending on how far you went into everyone's quest, they play, like, a bigger role in the ending. But what it kind of turns out to be is that, like, you're just doing 8
stories. You gotcha.
that there's not too much
There's
interweaving.
not, like, a
They're all
main
kind of, like, different episodes. There's not a lot of references to each other. They, like, the game won't be able to tell, like, if you're doing this one after
As opposed
another
to,
one
like,
or
an
something.
overarching narrative.
Yeah,
that characters
yeah.
you choose influence.
Yeah,
It's
and that's just like
that's
what I'm
kinda
getting
lame,
from
yeah.
like a couple of comments. But like people are still saying that it's like, you know, they never said that's what it was going to be. That's like kind of you just like coming up with your own ideas and then being like, oh, they didn't do exactly what I asked them.
Well,
You know,
I think there is.
but that
some
would have been
merit
cool.
in
It
that.
would have been. It's a good idea. It would have made the game better
I think there's
for
some.
probably significantly more work.
I think there's some
the
merit
developers.
in like giving them criticism for that, and like you know saying like people just came up with that idea on their own, but it's like if good marketing would like predict people are going to do that, and then they'd also like downplay that. So like I don't want to just like neglect that and like it pass off as a bad thing that people thought that,
Yeah.
because there are things that company could have done in their marketing to like
Yeah.
level it out and like make reasonable expectations. So just
I don't
food
know
for
if this
thought.
game is even getting a lot of like advertising though, because it's a JRPG still. Like
Yeah.
it
was
was
mostly-
it's only going to a
The only
small
thing
set
I
of
could think of was
fans
during
anyway.
E3, and I definitely,
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely walked out of that and sure it was my own thought, but being like, oh, like you influence the main narrative, like
Yeah.
it's just kind of a logical place to go.
Yeah,
so
it seems like that's
Yeah.
how it would be. But yeah, so it's put me off of it a little bit, and I don't know if I'm going to buy it for $60.
that's fair.
But
isn't that
I
Nintendo's
also-
MO kind of like anytime they have anything even resembling like an exclusive or first party game, it's gonna be like 60 no matter what.
So first party Nintendo games always $60,
Mhm.
and well, I won't say always $60, but
Most of the time.
99% of
Large
the time
majority.
$60 if it's like a full on game, you know. And then the other thing on top of that is that it never goes on sale.
Yeah,
That
It
sucks.
never goes on sale. You cannot buy any like Pokemon game right now for less than it cost when it came out.
Hey, so this is kind of off topic, but did you ever play Under Night in Birth?
No, Eunice?
Yeah.
No.
It's coming to PC in August 21st. Just reminded me. I'm sorry to like.
That's cool.
D-
Is that like a
D-
Square Enix thing or something?
No. You just said like it never goes on sale, and for some reason I thought Steam, and then
Mm-hmm.
I thought like this. I'm sorry to like derail the whole conversation.
I mean, while we're at it, Postscriptum comes out
Shut
on.
the fuck up.
Oh, No Man's Sky Next comes out on August 24th.
So
and,
Octopath Traveler, not a great game.
Yeah, shit game, don't buy it. That's the end of the pod. I'll talk to you
Wait,
later.
we got to shout out our Gmail. Email us at casuallytoxicquestions@gmail.com.
Yeah, ask me about.
Don't bring it
Path.
up. Oh, I thought you were gonna say your fucking toe shit or whatever again.
Oh no, I was gonna say that. Ask me
we have
about.
a Twitter, right, Scotty? What is it? It's at Casually
At
Toxic.
Casually Toxic.
Tweet us.
Instagram at Casually Toxic.
Give
That's
us
not
your
real.
hot narrative takes.
Yeah.
Give us your burning questions.
Send me pictures of your dog.
Yeah, dog pictures.
Definitely thought
preferably.
you were gonna save your dick, but
That's
What
where
the fuck is wrong with you guys?
I mean, you said send me pictures of your
send me pictures of your monitor.
There it is.
Because I like looking at some good PC porn. I like seeing the battle station setups.
All right.
I'll look at those on Reddit
Send
for
me
like
pictures
hours.
of pizza.
Yeah, I'm hungry.
Or
I'm hungry
ask
too.
any of us or me questions about Path or programming or CS or game stuff or Unity or anything.
Okay, we're not.
So
that's
on
not-
Twitter at Casually Toxic,
Or religion.
Gmail Ask Casually Toxic.
It's
Casually
casually toxic
questions.
questions. We need to change. That's a mouthful.
Yeah, that's a shitty email.
I said that.
Casually Toxic Questions at gmail.com.
Casually toxic questions at
We've had-
gmail.yahoo.government.
But I couldn't get Ask CT or whatever the fuck. Listen, this outro's been going on for too long. Let's get
Just do
this shit
casually
here.
toxic.
Okay, the end. Don't email us.